When the Paralympic Games were held here in the capital in 2012, they were credited with transforming attitudes towards disability. But 2 years on, how much progress has really been made? Because an undercover investigation for Inside Out London has discovered that time and time again, people with disabilities are still being subjected to unfair treatment and discrimination. Tara Welsh has the story.
It was supposed to stop this.
So you don't take guide dogs, no?
There'll be extra money.
Extra money for a guide dog?
Almost 20 years ago, the Disability Discrimination Act was introduced to make sure disabled people were treated equally. But has it happened?
Do you have a ramp for this stuff?
No, we don't. What we do, we carry the transaction for you.
On the street?
We find out if the law is working.
Do we honestly feel that the law is there to protect us? And the answer would probably be not, because every day we're facing barriers, some of them extreme, some of them not so extreme, but equally are having a devastating knock-on effect.
The things we all take for granted, like going for a coffee or using public transport, can still be almost impossible for some. We've been contacted by a number of people who say they still can't access some services in the capital. I'm about to meet two people who say they've really had enough. Christiana is a journalist who's been disabled since she was a baby, so has always used a wheelchair.
How are you, Jenny? Good, how are you? I hate it if I'm in front of a restaurant and I just can't get in. Even so, there are only 1 or 2 steps, but that is enough for me not getting in.
Reshi has retinitis pigmentosa. It means he's gradually going blind. He has very limited sight, but his guide dog Lana helps him get around. But the way they can be treated sometimes leaves him despairing.
I am still a person that gets very frustrated. I've had to go to counselling. I've had to, admit to my boss at work that I wasn't coping. I travel a lot for my work, so I encounter a lot of issues.
We wanted to find out how bad this was, and the only way to see exactly what was going on was to give them secret cameras as they went about their lives. Starting off with something as simple as getting a coffee. When Christiana wants a hot drink, getting through the door at this branch of Costa Coffee was a problem.
Have a ramp?
No, we don't.
Okay.
Really sorry.
Okay.
Costa Coffee said sight conditions mean they can't have a ramp at this branch. At Cafe Concerto, it was the same story.
Excuse me, do you have a ramp?
Here they told us they're constantly working to improve access. Businesses are supposed to make sure disabled people can get in, and this usually means having a ramp. But Christiana found big chains lacking. Sometimes they're out of order, like here at Itsu.
That is too high at the side. No, I wanted to eat inside.
At Eat, the lift didn't work.
No, don't do it like that. Normally it comes... No, it's automatic.
Itsu told us they were dealing with the faulty ramp, and Eat said its lift is now fixed.
I went from coffee shop to coffee shop to coffee shop, and either they had steps in front of their door, or they only had high tables. You only have high tables, have you?
Downstairs we have the low ones, but
It's not helpful, okay, thank you.
Cafe Nero told us it would look into this, and she had a similar problem at Itsu.
You don't have lower tables, have you? It's raining.
They said all shops of the future would have lower tables.
Eating on my lap or drinking my coffee on my lap, that is degrading.
Here the seats are fixed in and can't be moved out, so her chair can't get under the table.
It's against British law, you know that?
Yeah. I will speak with the general manager. I will do it.
When?
I don't know.
Chipotle say they've made adjustments to make this branch more accessible. And look what happens when Christiana goes to buy stamps.
Do you have a ramp for this stuff?
No, we don't. What we do, we carry the transaction for you.
On the street?
Yeah, well, you tell us what you need to do and I will do it for you.
They need to know they are going to be sued and they will lose if they take that approach. In any ordinary case, it is not reasonable, particularly in dealing with financial products or personal products, to expect wheelchair users to have to accept a service in the high street.
The post office says their plans for a ramp at this branch weren't approved by the council, but they are continuing to look at ways to improve things.
Morrison back on court, back in possession and back scoring.
Ross Morrison is a wheelchair rugby Paralympian, but even he finds getting around London a nightmare.
Getting on off the train can be a real tricky issue, in that you need a ramp to get on and a ramp to get off. Now, quite often, with a lot of stations, the ramps aren't there for you to get off. Now, I've got some good chair skills, so I've been able to literally bunny hop my chair off a train. Not safe, not healthy, really, but I've got away with it. For your average disabled person or who has mobility issues, it's just not an option, and that can be a real problem.
On the underground and overground, people who need assistance are supposed to be able to get help without booking in advance. Christiana tells staff she'll need a ramp at her destination. But when she arrives, there's no one waiting for her.
Could you speak to the driver? He knows that I'm in the train.
Help does come a bit later. She often finds herself waiting on the rail network too. A member of the public calls for help. 2 minutes later, she's assisted by staff.
Yeah, I know, I need help, you're right. It is a very uncomfortable situation, being stuck in a train. You know it will leave in the next 1 minute or 2 minutes.
She's left behind by buses too.
The next one is coming in 2 minutes because the ramp is not working.
Your ramp isn't working?
Yeah.
Oh no.
The number of complaints to TfL has risen in the last 3 years. Transport for London say they take them seriously, but they do need to be put in the context of millions of journeys a year. Christiana's had a number of problems with access and getting around. Reshi hasn't had any, but what you're about to see next is both shocking and against the law. Guide dogs are supposed to be allowed into restaurants, shops and cabs. It's a criminal offence for a driver to refuse to take an assistance dog. And the majority are helpful. But after Reshi encountered problems in East London, we decided to put it to the test. We phoned up 20 firms and ordered a minicab from each.
Small dog, we can't take it, but big dog, we can't take. We don't have a facility to take it.
Right, don't take guide dogs then, no? Not at all?
Guide dog, we take it, but if they're quite big dog, I can't take it.
What, in a people carrier?
The people carry, but it's still there. I don't have a facility to take it. What's the reason I can't take the dog?
It's a guide dog. It's an assistance dog.
How are you going to go inside?
It just sits in the front.
Front?
It just sits in between my legs in the front.
Then there was the allergy excuse.
Excuse me, it's my allergy actually.
Are you allergic?
Yeah.
Have you got a medical card to say that, no?
Huh?
Have you got a medical card?
No, not with my hay fever problem, you know.
It seems there are a lot of allergies round here. If a driver really does have a medical condition, he must have an exemption certificate.
It is my allergy, that's why I don't take it. Sorry.
Okay, but you can't prove that. You've got no card, no.
Call an official, maybe take other one.
A minority refused, but others wanted extra.
So you don't take guide dogs, no?
There'll be extra money.
Extra money for a guide dog?
Of the 20 we called, 5 wouldn't take the dog.
A lot of the time I go home and I'm just exhausted. I feel like I have been in a battle. It's draining. It's draining.
Is there a member of staff somewhere?
We showed our footage to the Minister for Disabled People.
I'm still completely perplexed by the taxi cab story, because I can't think of any plausible reason why they weren't able to take your researcher on his journey. So it is depressing. And so one of the things we need to do, though, is remember lots of firms do deliver good customer service. There are lots of good examples.
He's going to contact the businesses we filmed at and look at whether minicab guidance needs redrafting. As this journey comes to an end for Reshi and Christiana, both know the daily battle to be treated fairly is likely to continue.
I have issues getting into shops and stores and whatever, but on the other hand, I also meet people which are very helpful and want to give me the best service.
If somebody would have told me when I was fully sighted how difficult it would be, I would have been convinced they were lying. I wouldn't, you know, it is a very different life.